Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Agata Hodyk, and I will have a pleasure to introduce you Clara Wieck, known as Clara Schumann. In my opinion, the best woman artist. Unfortunately, a lot of people just say Clara Schumann, the wife of Robert Schumann. Briefly about my discovering of Clara. When I studied at Music Academy in Katowice, Professor Andrzej Jasiński suggested that I should play the Carnival Opus 9 of Robert Schumann. He told me that this music would reflect my personality and I would enjoy it and find it easy. When I searched for information about this piece, I came across an article about Robert's relationship with Clara, her amazing talent, her impact on Robert's work, and her importance as an artist in the world. That was the beginning of my fascination with this woman. Since then, I started to get to know her better, to discover her talent, to learn more about her. I finally recorded some pieces of Clara Wieck and lately Clara Schumann, and also I would like to present to you some samples of this recording in this lecture. The theme of my lecture is the life of teenage star Clara Wieck, inspiring or demotivating. I will focus on the time when she was teenagers, but first let me say some details which will brief us on the subject. Clara was born on September 13, 1819 in Leipzig in Germany. Her father, Friedrich Wieck, chose her name, meaning light, brilliance, and expected that she would be a great virtuosa trained by him from birth. She was supposed to be a sensitive and delicate person with an extremely developed intuition and imagination. Firstly, I would say that Clara was lucky and unlucky at the same time, that her father led her career from the very beginning. Let's see what challenges and difficulties she had to face up to at that time as a young girl. Clara was speechless until the age of 4, probably due to the stress of parents' constant quarrels ending in divorce. Her father did not allow worse days, not letting Clara even one day break from the piano. Only half a year she went to a normal school. After then, she only had private teachers. She was described as affectionate, simple, and natural. Ardent at work and at play, quietly self-possessed with strangers, easily moved to tears in matters of feeling, docile, a young girl of keen intelligence and passionate heart. Clara began learning to play the piano at the age of 4, and a year later, when she was placed under the sole care of her father, she began regular musical education. The exercise began with etudes, for example by Czerny, Reinecke, and exercises in improvisation and a vista reading, which Clara called an adventure. After about 10 to 15 minutes, she went on to practice a specific repertoire. Wieck made sure that the work was carried out in conditions of maximum concentration, so often, especially in the initial period of study, the obligatory 2 or 3 hours during the day were divided into 10-minute segments, which was the guarantee of the most effective work. That's why he cared so much for both physical condition and Clara's taste for music. The day was organized in such a way that the girl had enough time to rest, and also Wieck put special emphasis on long daily walks and gymnastic open-air exercises based on the assumption that a well-rested child can give more of herself. Moreover, wanting to develop her imagination, Wieck took his daughter to every concert in Leipzig and nearby towns. I would say that her life, teenage period, was a total commitment to the will of the father. Just to give an illustration of that, for example, The summer of 11 years old Clara was again spent by her in the varied artistic study that her father thought best adapted to promote the goal he had kept steadily in view throughout the course of her development, the training of her powers not merely to brilliant virtuosity, but to sound musicianship and to some measure of creative activity. So, she took violin lessons, practiced score reading, and even made a beginning with the first elements of instrumentation, not forgetting about singing lessons and learning foreign languages. That's a lot for an 11 years old girl, isn't it? What her teenage career was like? Very intense, but also varied and delightful. As a teenage pianist, she visited France, Austria, and Hungary. Concert tours through Germany with her father were certainly exhausting, at the same time giving her the sense of being important and praised above all else. She was the most common performing female pianist at the famous Gewandhaus in Leipzig at the turn of the country. Friedrich Wieck wrote in diary, "Clara is wild, but very noble and reasonable. She is incredibly fearless when performing, and the larger the concert, the better she plays." An article by Karl Ferdinand Pohl in Leipziger Tageblatt contains such mention of Clara's playing. She has attained a degree of technical accomplishment which enables her to execute great difficulties with ease and certainty, a repose and presence of mind when performing which never desert her, a power which compels admiration. Wieck's exemplary care over Clara's artistic education, unfortunately, did not translate into their personal relationship, and his affection had little to do with unconditional fatherly love. Concern for her daughter's health was dictated mainly by the desire to meet the dates of the concerts. His attention was focused on her diligent piano preparation. Wieck did not want to cancel any of Clara's performances, because that would mean not only lower earnings, but also depriving himself of the chance to establish more prestigious and promising contacts. Her father showed her kindness only when she played well, so she associated the feeling of love with the reward for a well-done job. When something did not go according to her father's wishes, the girl was scolded. Wieck was going berserk, tearing notes and announcing that he would stop giving her lessons. Clara describes one of many similar situations in her diary when she was just 9 years old, after her hugely successful debut at the Leipzig Gewandhaus. My father, who had long hoped in vain for a change of disposition on my part, noticed again today that I am still lazy, careless, disorderly, obstinate, and disobedient, and that I play as badly as I study. I played to him so badly, without even repeating the first part of the variation, that he tore up the copy before my eyes, and from today onwards he will not give me another hour, and I am to play nothing but scales. By reading Clara Wieck's diary entries, it is unfortunately difficult to say what she really thought and felt, because Wieck controlled her diary until she was 18. Sometimes he made entries on her behalf too, so one can only guess which of them were written by Clara herself. Deprived of contact with her peers and the games typical of childhood, which was a waste of time for Wieck, Clara grew up in the belief that her world was completely filled with music. Referred to as a true miracle, she gave the impression of a modest and serious person, Despite numerous comments that sadness, often visible on her childish face, and traces of tears are inscribed in the life of an artist, in Clara's case, the rigor to which she was subjected, they discreetly and compassionately added, "Poor child." But did she complain? Yes, sometimes. Living out of a suitcase was actually tiring. When she was older and more aware of her role to fulfill father's expectation, she once wrote, "The traveling is very boring to me now. I very much long for peace. I must start practicing early, and we have guests until late in the evenings. Then my mind is utterly exhausted." Clara Wieck was not the only pianist, but she was a composer as well. And again, a great manager and businessman, Friedrich Wieck, he knew very well how to attract the audience. Clara's repertoire and also her compositions showed the taste of the audience. It was supposed to be a gloss and virtuosity. So she worked steadily on for several hours daily at counterpoint and composition when she was not on the concert tours. As she was 11, her Opus 1, a set of 4 polonaises for piano solo, was issued by Hofmeister in Leipzig. At the age of 12, Clara composed Opus 2, Capricious, in the form of a waltz, which appeared simultaneously in Paris and Leipzig. According to Dieter Kuhn, Clara composed her best and boldest piano pieces between the ages of 15 and 20. And now please listen to the fragment of Nocturne Opus 6 composed by 15 years old Clara. It's played by me. One more important stage in her teenage life: Clara and Robert's love, their relationship and fight for happiness. When Wieck found out about the affection between Clara and Robert Schumann, he forbade Robert from seeing Clara and threatened to kill Schumann if he appeared at their home. The lovers did not meet for almost a year and a half, and their contact was limited to letters that they secretly exchanged with each other thanks to the help of friends. It is also possible that the main reason Wieck refused to agree to Clara's marriage to Robert was due to financial matters. Called by Schumann Meister alles Geld, Wieck was convinced that as Clara's father, teacher and impresario, he had every right to the money she earned. In giving his daughter up for marriage, he would have lost her considerable income. Clara understood that her father didn't have her best interest when he made the deal. The absurd conditions he presented insulted her dignity. She was to give up all her savings and rewrite them to her brother, and by taking her piano and the other things from home, she was to pay exorbitant amounts. The dispute was resolved in court. Clara left her father and went to live with her mother in Berlin. She was not allowed to take anything from the house, so all clothes, piano, even diaries remained at home in Leipzig. Her father also refused to give her any money, so she made a living from concerts and Robert's financial help. This time abounded with many concerts abroad, but most of all, it was the time of independence of the young pianist. For the first time, Clara went on a tour to Paris alone, without her father, who was convinced that her daughter would not be able to organize anything. However, Clara showed incredible resourcefulness and steadfastness. Headaches, sleepless nights, the stress of being responsible for the preparation of the performances, all this did not weaken her determination to prove her father that she could manage her career and life perfectly on her own. Also, love for Robert gave her the strength and courage to stand up to her father. To summarize, was Clara's teenage life inspiring or demotivating? I think both. Today we could call teenage Clara a young celebrity, and the number of views on Facebook posts, YouTube videos, or Instagram or TikTok followers would certainly be a measure of her popularity. What can inspire us? For me, certainly the methods of exercise, work efficiency, and care for health and fitness from an early age. But is everything admirable and exemplary? What could be demotivating? Screaming, insulting, humiliating, inducing guilt. These are feelings that cannot be erased. On the other hand, achieving great goals without hard work, high bar, consistency and discipline is practically impossible. Wieck tried to be the best father he could. It was a pity he had wasted this time with his daughter, fighting unworthily for her and turning away from her when she needed him so badly. As for Clara, she remained an unquestionable role as a pianist. And beyond the dark sides of her teenage life, which I mentioned, she remains an invisible inspiration to me, not only as a pianist, but also as a woman. Thank you for your attention.